Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Uh-huh. So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
If you're a fan of comic books and comic book conventions, Daytona Beach Comic Con needs to be on your list of must-attend events. It's a show that actually focuses on comic books. Imagine that! This year's event is happening on Saturday, September the 6th, and Sunday, September the 7th. Silverline creators will be there, so we'll see you at the show. There's a new convention in town, and it's sure to be mega fun without the mega expense. Comics, toys, collectibles, pop culture. ShadowCon, Saturday, February 1st, 2025 in Orlando, Florida. Silverline creators will be there, so we'll see you at the show. If you find yourself in the Orlando area, and let's be honest, doesn't everyone come to Orlando for the House of Mouse? Head over to Coliseum of Comics to get your comic book fix. Be sure to check out their location on East Colonial Drive, where they carry a wide selection of independent comics, including Silverline books. Stop by and don't forget to tell them Silverline sent you. Hey, if you're an independent comic creator looking to get your comic printed, look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our comics and do a fantastic job. They can even print special edition covers. When you reach out to them, be sure to tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kilber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday night as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline. Well, I was trying to get it shared on Facebook, but I couldn't get over there. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Silverline Silver Sunday.
Two people showed up.
Hey, over there.
Right.
Sunday, April the 27th. I'm your host. I'm excited to be here. I'm Roland Man, and I'm joined by that man in the man guy, that man in the mask guy, Mr. Mike W. Belcher. Say hi, Mike.
Hi, everybody. I can't believe next week's May. Can anybody else?
No.
No.
Stop talking.
I know, no kidding.
I don't like hate speech.
That's right. We're also joined by the sellout himself, Mr. Tom Mason.
Is it time to sell out yet?
Not yet.
Okay, because I'm ready.
And we, of course, are joined by the human digital color supreme, Mr. Roberta Conroy.
Hello.
How you doing, Roberta?
I'm good.
Good. Good to see you. And we're joined by Mr. Thomas Flormonti Jr., who's just trying to get along.
No, I changed it now.
He's selling out all the way to the bank.
Cha-ching.
How's it going, Tommy?
I'm doing fine. Doing fine.
My hero.
Good. So yeah. Convention update. Had a show here yesterday in Ocala, Brick City Comic Con. It was good. Don't think it was as well as attended as last year, but got to talk to some fun people, see some cool folks. Met a guy, an interesting story, and I'm hoping that he'll email me. Met a guy who said that in a long time ago when he was young, and I'm assuming that because I'm trying to remember when Charlton was around, but he said that he was offered a job at Charlton, and his mom wouldn't let him take it. So
was it to run the place?
No. He was just going to be an artist. They went in there. And he said he asked his mom later. It's like, well, Mom, why did you waste my time? Why did you waste your time and their time? Because he went in there, they interviewed, he got a tour of the place. She was with him, right? And they offered him the job, and she said no. And the reason she said that is because she said, well, I didn't think anyone would take you seriously.
Oh,
She probably threw his comics out too.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, he's here. He says, that's me.
This is why you can't trust your parents, man. Don't tell them your dreams.
Yeah.
crushing your dreams.
Or don't tell Roland stories you don't want plastered on the internet.
I didn't mention his
It's a two-part
name.
thing.
Well, I thought that was an interesting story, though, because,
It is.
number one, I don't know too many people who, know Charlton to begin with. And the fact that, you were there, he was there and was offered a job and then couldn't take it.
And Charlton's out of the way unless you live close, because Charlton's way up in Derby, Connecticut, which is one of those places where you got to take like 4 different freeways to get there.
Well, obviously, clearly we're in Florida, but he is from up in that area originally. But it was a fun conversation with him. Had some really nifty art, and I'm hoping that if you're still listening, I'm hoping that you will reach out. He says it's 2 hours from Hartsdale.
Okay.
So Tom is probably the only one that would know anything about that area.
That's quite a schlep for your mom to turn him down.
Right.
It's 4 hours round trip.
I mean, why would you go all? And he said the same thing. It's like, why would you go all the way over there?
They got a really good Denny's there. So they went all the way up
because I've been to Derby, and Derby looks kind of like a rundown version of Duckburg from Karl Marx Donald Duck comics. There's not a lot going on over there.
So, I've never been to Connecticut. I know where it is on the map, but I barely know how to say it.
Can you spell it?
Given time, I think I could. Yeah.
Given time.
Yeah, I have to Google it real quick.
No, because that's kind of reason I say it Connecticut, because it's not it's Connecticut, but I say it Connecticut so that way I can spell it Connecticut, right?
You also say Florida.
Florida.
I do say Mississippi though.
That leaves out an entire.
We're missing some vowels there.
Yeah, couple vowels.
Yeah, that's like saying Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Gray Wolf says, "Hey, you chat. What's up, Gray Wolf? Thanks for hanging out with us." Apex says that is a good story. Thank you, Apex. I thought it was a good one.
It's a sad story.
It is a sad story, but I think it's a comic story, right? I mean, it is a comic book story. It's the kind of thing that if you hear it, you're like, no, I don't believe that, right? You're like, yep, that sounds like a comic book, Mom.
It's the employment equivalent of having your parents burn your comics or give them to the Goodwill or throw them out or whatever.
Right. So anyway, it was a fun little show. Like I said, I don't think there's many attendees this year as there was last. No reason that I could see for it. The weather was great, but just not as many attendees this year. But it was still fun. Had a good time. Like I said, met. I'm not really sure how to say it. Bago Glass says it's how I became a psychologist.
You can now treat comic book artists.
Yeah,
that's right. And most of us are well in need of that kind of treatment. So any other stories? Anybody else do a show since our last meeting or anything? Any news?
I know the Diamond's up for sale again.
Well, I was going to say the Diamond news is interesting, isn't it? The fact that I can't remember the names now, but the fact that they took them to court. Alliance, yeah. They basically took them to court. Sort of. I mean, I was telling the story the weekend, and I said, and then they won. Someone said they didn't win; they settled. I'm like, well, okay, well, whatever. They won, and then they backed out.
Yes.
Like,
yep. And the other people they backed out once they didn't win, so they may not even be around the first group of people that wanted it.
It was United, wasn't it? Wasn't that their
Universal.
Universal.
Universal
okay.
wanted it.
They wanted they took their ball and went home. All right, fine. I don't want any
So
more.
did they really? I hadn't heard that.
Yeah.
That's what I had read that. Yeah.
Oh, I
Weeks
didn't
ago.
read that.
I haven't read that they refused to return to the table.
No, I haven't either. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess
I'll
this
look it.
week
I'll
we'll-
find it somewhere. I think it was in Bleeding News. Bleeding Cool News is where I read it. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I just
yeah.
made it up.
Um,
I like that part better.
that's
Yeah, it's
possible.
the drama. Love the drama.
Yeah,
Well,
because
Diamond says it's still business as usual.
yeah. Well, and except for the 2 months that they didn't pay anybody, including us, things have been still moving along.
Except for the nail in my head, I feel fine.
That's pretty much true.
Yeah, my comic shop that I know in Biloxi, he says he's still getting stuff, and it's not all coming anymore because a lot of the people aren't sending the books in anymore because they just feel like they're not going to get paid. But he's still getting stuff from them, not what he's ordered, but he's getting stuff.
Yeah.
So,
I didn't order that. Why did it come in?
no. He he put in an order for 10 books, he may get 5 of them.
I see. Yeah.
Because the people took the book, so he's having to order certain things that people don't want to deal with Diamond anymore elsewhere.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you know what's funny? I still hear a lot of retailers that refuse to deal with Lunar, and the reason is Lunar is a competitor. And so one of the things I heard this weekend is this guy said he won't order from Lunar because some of the times what happens is you try to order something from Lunar that's hot, and they're like, "Oh, we're out of it." But then you go over to their retail side and you see that they've got a deal on it, right? It's like, okay, well, how are you as a distributor? How are you out of it? But you've got it over on here on the retail, and it goes, it's marked up.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what they're doing. He goes, and he goes, I want. He goes, I just stop ordering in comics if that's what it's going to be. He goes, I won't order from Lunar, and he's not the. And this was a conversation I had at Brick City Comic Con. But he's not the only one I've ever heard say that. I've heard a lot of people say, or several, not a lot, but several retailers say that they would not order from Lunar.
so Lunar has a retail website where I could just go and buy stuff
Yes.
as an individual?
It's not called Lunar, but they own a retail a retail outlet. Yeah.
That's like saying you can't shoot my right foot because I'm already shooting my left foot.
That's a mess.
I mean, I understand why retailers are mad that there's a retail component to their distributor, but we're down. We're not 1980 anymore.
Well, in this is kind of the same reason that Pacific Comics got out of doing comic books, right? Because they were a distributor. They initially published Mike Barron's Badger. And then I think there was a lot of complaints that, hey, you guys are a distributor as well.
Capital City.
Yeah, Capital City.
I'm sorry, I meant Capital City. Yes.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of yelling, hey, this is unfair. So they got out of publishing comics.
Yeah, but I mean, that's 1984.
That's true. Yeah.
It's
That's
so
true.
and it's if you have customers for the books, but you're refusing to order them for some principled stance,
Yeah.
you're depriving your customers of books.
And the thing about Lunar is they're the exclusive for DC, aren't they? I mean, if you don't want any
Yes.
DC comics in your book, in your stands, I mean, that's
Well, I asked him about that, and he goes, you know what? He goes, I don't sell the guy this particular weekend. He goes, you know what? I don't really sell any DC comics anyway. He goes, I got 4 people who want Batman. And he says that's it. He goes,
Everybody else
all
wants
they want.
Marvel books.
He goes
That
nobody
is a
else.
weird clientele.
That is a weird clientele.
I don't think it's weird that they only want Batman though. I mean, it's DC Comics, right? What else?
Well, no. I just meant that practically they didn't want any DC stuff. They only wanted Marvel stuff. Everybody that shopped at a store, nobody's a DC person. I think that's what I meant. I thought it was kind of
Yeah. I don't know.
And Love and Rockets. They only want Batman and Love and Rockets.
That's right. That's all I want.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Certainly, we're living. I think all of us we're living in one of those periods of histories that comic book histories that you read back on it and say, hey, this was a big time of change in comics, and we read about it now. I think we're living through one of those periods.
Also, I think we'll look back years from now at this era and we'll say, man, we messed up. There was something. We made all the wrong choices. We should have gone here instead of there.
Right.
And that's the funny thing about it is, for years, I mean, comics have ruled TV and movies, and yet the industry that spawned it, the ideas, everything is still so stagnant. You get so frustrated with that because you can't. I mean, it's not like everybody quit reading.
No.
The supposed young adult market that's so popular with the Harry Potters and the Diary of a Wimpy Kid and all those are still so. There used to be a nice little fandom of comics. I mean, you guys lived through it. You guys lived through the '90s and having everything. It's like last weekend was WrestleMania, and those basically are the same customers. I mean, it's the good versus evil wrestling goes hand in hand, and they have the boom and the burst that comics have had.
They sure have. Wrestling,
but right now they're
now than it was back in the '90s, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
But those guys know how to generate excitement. There's no excitement in comics, and the ones that are generating, it was like us. What we're trying to do, what other indies are doing. We're tribes. We're tribes out the wilderness. We're all working our little ends here and there. But we don't have enough firepower to get that fanaticism up. But there are people out there. If we could figure out how to to do that, to amp up that fandom, to amp up that call to action, because we've sit here and we let Hollywood take our cons. The B and C listers and Etsy, all these other places that used to be our places. And we've just like, okay, just give me my table and I'll be fine. But and that's the thing about it. But people still love the characters. People still love. You can get invested in it. You get. Nobody quits this stuff. They just get less interested in it. And we're at all. And there's a big industry that thanks to Diamond and the Big Two and the whatever, they've let that die down.
Yeah.
And and we're left with we need to do that, but how do we coordinate that?
I have an odd theory.
What's your theory?
So the comics industry is actually really strong because the Scholastic Books segment of comics explodes. I mean, mostly what we talk about is the comics that we grew up with, which are like the superhero comics,
right? And
I think, and to bring up the WWE, WWF, whatever it is called now, analogy is their wrestling is always as strong when they have like a really good front person, or two or three really good rivalries, or people who can really get in your face and make it a thing.
Yeah, exciting.
And I would argue that since Stan Lee, the industry hasn't had that person, hasn't had that champion who carries that message. Because for all of the good or ill that they did, Levitz and Shooter, when they ran DC and Marvel, they were corporate guys. They're business guys. And we don't want to talk to people who are business guys. We want to meet people who are comic book guys, which is what Stan Lee always presented himself as.
Yeah.
And so now when you go to meet the people who run Marvel Comics or the people who run DC Comics, because they're big corporations now, it's basically business people.
Yeah.
We don't have a champion of comic books with that big bombastic comic book personality like we used to have.
Yeah, and I think the last I remember obviously would have been Image, right? Because when those guys hit, they were rock stars.
Yeah.
They were young, they were rebels, they were kind of putting it to the man, as
That's right.
They were
until they became the man.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
And now they're they've sort of faded into the background of the business.
Yeah.
What I think the business needs is another bunch of folks that do that.
We need another Image revolution of sorts. A couple other comments here. Timescale says, greets from San Francisco. What's up, Timescales? Thanks for getting up early and joining us. Hyper Potato says, like and subscribe, kids. Thanks, Hyper. Good
Mr.
to see you
Potato.
here, as always. Apex Comics says, buy a comic sales ad in wrestling magazines. I mean, possible. I don't know
if there are there any wrestling magazines anymore?
Right. I'm trying to think.
Yes,
On the regular, I ask because one of the things I talk about in my class is printing, right? And we don't talk about a whole long session, but we talk a little bit about it, and usually it refers to we're looking back on story pacing and why we do even and odd page turners and things like that.
Right.
But part of what we talk about is printing, and I asked them every single class, how many of you in here get magazines? And for the last 3 years, 4 years at least, not a single hand raised. I used to get Game Informer, right? They would say, "Oh, I get Game Informer." I don't even get that anymore.
But video games are probably the most popular form of entertainment for a segment of the audience ever.
Yep.
And that used to be a huge magazine business too.
Yes.
That side of the business is gone completely. Now it's because the people who play the games can connect online, so they don't need the magazines.
Right.
Well, and most of them, they tell me, I say, well, where do you do your reading? Most of them say now, I do all my reading on my phone. I can't imagine reading everything I have on my phone.
Yeah.
No,
It's not fun.
I would need 2 pairs of glasses.
Right? This would be me and Tom, right?
Yeah, that's right. I got to double up.
You got to pull them out so you can magnify. Go back.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm always moving the phone. Whenever I don't have my glasses, I got to find the right spot when I shift my phone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there
Yeah.
it is. I can read that now.
So let's talk about selling out, guys.
I'm ready.
So let's answer the first question. We'll keep it simple. Is it okay ever to sell out?
Absolutely.
Well, Tom says absolutely. What do you think, Mike?
I think it is. I mean,
Okay.
I think at different stages in your life, you have probably different opinions. But I think if you can control the situation, why not? You did it.
All right, we'll talk about that a little bit if you can control it. Tommy, what about you?
I say yes, but it's really depending on what your definition of selling out is. If it means to take work for Marvel, maybe somebody's definition that's a sellout. I don't know what your definition of selling out. I don't know what you mean by selling out.
Okay, well let's touch on all of them. That's not what I'm primarily after, but let's touch on that one first. What about working for Marvel or DC? That if you consider selling out, would you do it?
I'm thinking that we're coming from the Silverline of stuff.
Right.
If I'm not doing something that's mine, I'm doing something for somebody else, even if it's Silverline.
Yeah.
That's selling out. I'm not doing my own thing. I'm selling out doing your thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. See, that's what I mean. I don't really understand what the definition of selling. What are we calling selling out?
All right. So for me, the idea is that you created something, Zomboy, right? You created the Zomboy. At what point in time do you sell it and say, okay, I don't have anything to do with it anymore? I created it, yeah, but I'm going to sell it, and you're going to control it. You're going to run it. I'm just the creator guy.
There's a price tag for almost everything, right? Tom's going to say yes.
Yes, because it depends.
Because I could always come up with something else,
Yes. Yeah.
And what's the deal that's on the table?
Right.
So if let's say you create X, and there's a deal on the table from a big corporation that wants to buy X from you, well, obviously people are smarter now than they used to be in the 30s and 40s.
Right.
So what's the deal? Because at a certain point, there's, I want to be creative until I'm dead, and I want to work on stuff till I'm dead or whatever. But there's also the thing of, I can't create generational wealth for my family, and I can't set up my kids to go to college, and I can't do this or that if I'm still struggling with my independent comic. So if somebody comes along and says, okay, here's the deal, we're going to give you X amount of money, we're going to pay it as an annuity over a period of years, a residual or royalty fund that guarantees this amount of money per year will be established, that will go to your heirs in perpetuity. Now it's looking like it. Now, am I a sellout or am I a really good deal maker? Am I a businessman? And I think I'm a business person.
Yeah. I would say Hyper says, I'm so broke, I'll gladly sell out. That would give me more comic money.
There you go.
I don't think it's a bad thing to sell out either.
Well,
it's not. Yeah, I'm not even thinking about it as bad. I mean, look at like George Lucas. Is he a sellout because he sold Star Wars to?
A lot of people say so.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, but the first episodes 1, 2, and 3 were a sellout, and he ran those, and I think they were terrible anyway. So he didn't have to sell it out to make 7, 8, 9. Because
for a lot of people, it I think selling out means that you've done something that goes against your core values. Like if you've stated,
I think so. Yeah, there you go. That's what
if you've gone on and basically made a career or made noise about, Marvel is this corporation, Marvel is that corporation, Marvel is this or that, I don't like Marvel, whatever. And then all of a sudden they offer you a book and you're like, oh yeah,
I'm doing it.
Hey, kids, Marvel now. You sort of look like a sellout, because then who's the real person?
Yeah, who were you? Were you lying then or are you lying now? What's
right? And so I think for a number of people, it's the betrayal of perceived values that makes you a sellout. Whereas for the rest of us, it's a business decision.
Yeah, well, it's just that market demands and creativity and innovation don't always connect.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, when you're in your 20s, you can be very idealistic. You can be very, I'm not, this is mine. I'm a hardcore comic guy, and nobody's going to take my stuff. And you get your 30s. Well, leave I'll talk to you. You get your 40s, we'll put the deal on the table. By the time you're getting your 50s, it's like, where do I sign?
Yeah, at some point, I don't want to eat ramen noodles all the time.
I think my definition of it is more that not do you just change your core values, but you have an audience that loves you for it, and you're betraying those people in order to gain people that didn't know you and probably wouldn't care more than 2 minutes about you, but you are changing what you have with that sale.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think
if you grab people,
and once you're perceived to have turned against the fandom that you've created, they get angry.
Yes,
yeah, it's hard to come back from that. Yeah,
yes, it is.
And the thing now is that I think they probably always got angry, but now with the internet, you can hear them.
Instantly.
They're very vocal now.
And then they find out where you live, and they show up at your house, and
then they dox you.
And so.
Yeah.
But I also think it's a mistake. It's a mistake to sort of, sell out cheaply and then assume that you could create a second thing.
Yes.
Because sometimes, I love the Turtles guys and I love what they did. They didn't have a second thing.
No.
And so, so for all their creativity, for all their innovation, for all the things they could do with all their big ideas, they had one really great idea.
Yeah.
Did they even try to come up with anything else?
Well, from the Turtle world, I mean, you had Casey Jones comics, you had, things that were within the Turtle universe.
But something that was like totally separate from the Turtle stuff.
Right.
I don't know if they ever did.
No. And George, I
would imagine
maybe they tried to, and it just didn't work.
Well, and there's another example of coming from comics to somebody we know, Lowell Cunningham, Men in Black, and I know for a fact, I haven't talked to Lowell. There are other things he tried to do, they just didn't catch on.
That's right.
And so it's not like he stopped trying. It's just that was the thing that hit at the right time, the right moment, the right place, the right people.
If you've got that lightning in a bottle, are you not supposed to make money from it?
It's hard to catch that thing twice.
Yeah. It was hard to catch it once.
Right.
Yeah. So any other thoughts about that?
We're done.
We're done. All right. That's a good show. See you guys.
Well, were you asking individually, what we felt about our own stuff?
Yes. Oh, that's right. I didn't get around to Roberta. Roberta, what about you?
Yeah. I've spent more of my life working in collaboration with people than making my own thing.
Yeah.
So if I had something that I made that actually did take off, that question would have to be answered, of like, what is my price point where I need to make my own, living off of it.
That was my next question.
Yeah, well, that's it. What is that price point? And
what is the price point? Yeah.
I think it depends on how well I'm doing stability-wise, other than that.
Yeah.
Like if I am struggling, that's when people's values start changing. They're like, well, desperation becomes that spot.
And I think you have to be careful. I'm going to tell you guys a college football story because I know you don't follow college football, but I know some of our listeners do. So college football's changed in the last few years. We have what's called the portal, where they can go, they can enter the portal and then they can go to any school that they want to go to, transferring. They get NIL, which is name, image, and likeness money now, and that's essentially how they pay them today. Well, so Tennessee had a quarterback who played last year, and he did okay. And Tennessee was paying him like my numbers may not be exactly right, but they were paying him like $2 million. Well, he decided he wanted $4 million. Tennessee said, "Yeah, we're not paying that." So he said, "All right, I'm going into the portal then." He went into the portal. Nobody would give him the money.
Right.
Nobody. He ended up going to UCLA. I think it was UCLA. What's the other one out there? UCLA for $1.2 million. So
he lost his original deal.
He lost. So not only on top of that, he lost the $800,000, right? But Tennessee is a no state income tax, so he got all that $2 million federal taxes, of course. But then California has high state taxes, right? So not only did he go from 2 million to 1.2 million, but he lost a bunch of that to state taxes.
He I mean, he wasn't a star. He overestimated his value.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nobody came to him with a higher offer. He just ended up taking the lower offer by mistake.
So I can say this. Hyper, frequent backer of many of our campaigns, I would often affix a little Razorback sticker to his packages.
That's funny.
So, Hyper also said Lowell hit it big when movies were not paying much attention to comics too.
True.
Yes. Yeah.
And he got discovered by two producers who had a hot hand at the time.
Yeah.
So the two producers, Laurie McDonald and her partner Walter Parks, had just done Sneakers, and they were in the Malibu offices looking for. They'd heard there was a comic book company in Southern California, and they wanted to see it, so they came up, and they left the building with a stack of comic books, and the Men in Black was just one of the comics that they took away with them.
Yeah.
And then they saw that, they liked it, they wanted to option it. Then they became the head of production at Steven Spielberg's company as part of a separate deal. So they lucked into a good job, and then they brought Men in Black with them, and all of a sudden it was a Spielberg production. So Lowell is obviously, he got lightning, and then he got lightning again.
Yep.
And then those producers had the lightning in the bottle.
And that's luck for both sets.
That is. I mean, that's
people
just
involved.
Right people, right time, right place.
And then they got Will Smith at a time when Will Smith wanted to do action movies. So that was. Yeah.
So Lowell and I used to talk quite a bit back then, and I can remember when he told me, because I asked him, I said, "Well, how's the Men in Black licensing going?" He goes, "Well, Will Smith has signed on to it. He's interested in making it happen." I'm like, "The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?"
Right.
You couldn't see it.
Might as well make Michael Keaton Batman, for God's sakes.
So yeah, it was one of those that I was like, what? But then, looking back, Will Smith was perfect for that.
He was perfect.
Absolutely.
So Apex Comics says, don't be desperate to sell out your IPs. Get a good attorney to work with you.
That's right.
Oh yeah, don't sign anything. Just get a lawyer. Don't fall into that dream of, oh, Hollywood's interested in my magic beans.
I'll sell it because they could sell it to kill it.
Right.
That's right. Yeah. Well, okay, let's go on a rabbit trail for that. And Tom will probably be the best to address this, having dealt.
I'll go last then.
Do you think, right, in your sort of creation thing, do you think, because Roberta said they'll buy it to kill it, right?
They could.
They could, right? They could.
It's a gamble.
Or they could buy it and then just not able to get anything going, like the pieces don't fall into place. So it could be right. It could be deliberate, or it just could be the way the
that's kind of two separate things, though.
Those are two separate things, right? So let's stick with the deliberate thing, because I think the buy it and nothing happens. That's just that happens to a lot of properties. They buy properties. They buy it with the intention of doing something, and either they're distracted by something different, or something else comes along, or they just can't, they
just wrong time.
Right. Yeah. There's no lightning to be had. Right. So, but let's talk briefly about the intentional thing. Do you think, as a creative person, that that's a common occurrence? Do you think that people are out there buying properties just to kill them? I have an opinion.
I don't think anybody's intentionally trying to lose money. I mean, I don't think that the idea now, if you're, a bunch of competitors, and maybe you weren't necessarily going to put that one property on the top, but you didn't want somebody else to have it, I could see buying it to hold it, but I still don't see anybody actively buying something just to kill it.
Yeah, I don't believe Marvel bought Malibu just to kill it.
No,
well, I know they
right. I believe I do believe they bought it to keep it out of DC's hands.
Yeah,
I mean, but I don't think their intention when they bought it was like, hey, we're going to buy this.
Not to do anything with it. Yeah.
No, that doesn't make any sense.
Because what happens is, because it's so hard to get a movie or TV show off the ground, because how much it costs and all the pieces that have to fall into place and how you line up directors and actors in a screenplay or whatever, it's a lot of people will acquire more stuff just to make the odds better.
Yeah.
So they'll buy 10 things knowing that the odds are good that they'll make one.
Yeah.
They don't know which one. It'll be whichever one can get the deal to go forward. But that always leaves the other 9 to die, basically.
Yeah.
So they're not doing it deliberately. It's just that they've got to play these odds where it's like, well, we own 10 things. One's going to go forward. What about these other 9? I don't know. Let's buy 10 more.
Right. Yeah.
Then it gets lost in the shuffle.
It just gets lost. And so the trick then for that kind of situation is you want to have some kind of out where you can get if you're selling out, you want to get your rights back.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason I asked that, and I hadn't even thought about it until Roberta kind of mentioned it in passing, is that I've met creators who are of the firm belief that that's what happens, that people buy them their properties or will buy up properties with the sole intention of just killing it. And I just don't, having met enough greedy people, I don't think that's the case. I don't think they're buying products with the intentions of killing it. I don't think, I've never, I look at, I don't know every comics that's been produced, but I've seen a whole lot of comics, as you guys have, right? You guys. And I don't believe, I've never seen anything out there that I think, oh, I'd like to buy that just to kill it, so that it doesn't compete with something else.
Right.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
I mean, it just seems so kind of evil.
Very
defeating.
Right. The people that I've met in television and movies, they love to make stuff.
Yeah.
They want to make stuff. They're as frustrated as anybody else that something that they really love can't go forward, but they're also pragmatic about it. So there's a certain point where it hits the wall, and it's like, okay, I'm cutting this loose. I got to ride a different horse. I got to move on.
And like you said, it just could be the lineup. It could be the smallest of details on which producer they sold it to or whatever. I mean, they just don't have the right mix.
Yes, absolutely.
If you hear the word on the street that Keanu Reeves is looking for a new property, and you want to take a meeting with Keanu's people, you bring them the 10 things that you have. If Keanu says no to all 10 of them, well, that's it. You got to go out and find 10 more. Right. So I think that's because the opportunity is there.
Yeah.
And you go for the popular. These guys go for the popular. You had John Wick, he had hard. So what happened? You had Boom do what? That Berserker that was eventually supposed to be a license that was going to eventually be another starring thing for Keanu Reeves. It was just,
which it is.
He
made it.
Yeah.
And so, there you go. It's just whatever's hot and whatever's popular is what they're going to buy.
Yeah. So what's your price?
Well, it's just like dinner.
What's that?
It's just not dinner. No, seriously. I mean, I think it all depends on what your goals are. I mean, my price would be, what I feel like, how the property could be managed at. And, I also wouldn't give up the publishing. I would.
Okay.
I would give every other right away, but as far as I wouldn't sell the property itself, I wouldn't, say here you have all 100% of it.
Yeah.
You could make things out of it and you could have the complete rights to everything else, but I do have a stopping point.
Yeah.
Because at this time of my life, I still want the property. I don't. And then it's also not just mine. The way I view it, it's also Aiden's. That's what I've told Aiden. It's like, it's yours, and if you can do whatever you want to with it, it's up to you. But to my point of view right now, I just would give up everything else, but making my books.
Yeah. You want to make your books. I got a second question for that, but I got to say this. Hyper says word on the street is that Warner Brothers bought Tom's Ice Cream Soldier script just to kill it.
Well, my mistake was turning Ice Cream Soldier into a woman and trying to cast Gwyneth Paltrow.
That would do it.
There you
go. So Mike, let's go back to as long as you get to do your comic. What if, all right, you cut that deal, right? And they're like, yeah, you can do the comic. We'll do the movies, cartoons, everything else, but you can keep making your comic. What if they, in part of this, you hear Hyper swear. He knows swearing. Those. What if you find out? What if you find out they're going to hire Gwyneth Paltrow and she's going to be
the woman in the mask?
You kind of. I mean, I've been around to see some pretty bad adaptations, a horrible adaptation.
Yeah.
So I kind of know going into it more so probably than a younger guy would, because I've seen horrible adaptations of comic book properties. But that's what happens when you sell it away. Because very wise men, have said, hey, those are the movies, those are the TV shows. This is my comic. They're not the same thing. You have Mignola, it's the same way. Hey, that is that world. That's the cartoon Hellboy. That's the movie Hellboy. If you want the comics coming, Eric Larson said the same thing about Savage Dragon. He hated that cartoon of the 90s, but it gave him money when he needed it.
Yeah.
And he was able to make the comics. And another wise man, to my right, Mr. Tom Mason, also said the same thing to me. It's just some other interpretation. Your comics will always be your comics.
Yeah.
Your book and your idea is always going to be yours. I mean, people will know that. People will see that.
The worst thing you can do is give up your publishing rights.
Yes.
And then not have an outlet for your continued creation.
Exactly.
To continue.
Right.
So that's where the attorney comes in, and that's where your wishes come in. And that's where, because you can't, I think the idea that we could sit on the set or we could sit in the producer's office and we could have them make the thing our way.
No, don't do that. Change that.
It's the path to madness. Like it's you're just arguing with billionaires at that point, and you're not going to win. You're just going to drive yourself insane.
And I think too that the thing that you have to keep in mind is that if you do sell it, if you do turn loose of those, the chances are pretty good something's going to change, right? I mean, how many things do we know that's exactly like the comic? Matthew Krecky says, "Hi, what's up, Matthew? Thanks for hanging out with us." And Tom probably doesn't remember this, but one of my greatest frustrations to the initial cat and mouse option was they changed the sexes, and Tom is probably the one who
that's crazy.
It is crazy, right?
It's crazy. It makes no sense at all.
Tom's the one that probably heard me more than anybody else, right? Because I was on the phone with him constantly. I'm like, Tom, what are they doing? It's like, Roland, just take the money. Roland, just go. It's gonna if they make the movie, right? And I'm like,
so you're proving your point right there.
It doesn't make sense.
But they didn't make the movie.
They did not make the movie. Yeah.
So the change doesn't exist.
Well, the thing about it is, and that's a question that I ask myself to this day. would it have been better for, let's just say, Cat and Mouse as a property? Would it have been better for Cat and Mouse to have been made that way, or not at all?
Well, I think the only thing is that you got to understand a piece of the business that you didn't have before.
That's true.
And so now, these many years later, you have a better idea of what you want and what to ask for and what you can get for the thing that you created.
Yeah.
So I think in a way, it's terrible they wanted to change the sexes because it would have ruined it, but they didn't make it, so it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And now you've learned that, well, that's a thing that can happen if I don't look out for myself.
Yeah.
You just got to agree with whatever the deal is. You know, you got to be happy. You know, you got to just in your head, you got to go, well, I signed it. Whatever the deal is what the deal is. You know, if they decide to make everybody robots now instead of people, it's the deal. I signed off on it. I took the money. I can't complain about it. You know,
right.
But that's why you got to get. That's why you got to get a lawyer to sort of look it over and say, okay, Roland, are you? Because contracts are written in ways that no matter how many contracts I've read, there are parts of it I will never understand, and I've got to go to somebody and I've got to say,
what does this mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think get it explained to you in a way that's, and then it's like, well, I don't like that. I don't like it if they have the right to reverse the sexes of my characters. How can we get that to not happen? And then that's where the push and pull of negotiation starts.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
so I guess you're not going to know when to sell it until you see the actual results of the offer.
Well, yes. And that's it. Can you anticipate every possible change?
No.
That they might make? I mean, I could write that in. Hey, you can't reverse the sexes of the characters because that makes no sense. You could add that in there, but you can't.
Well, do you want the $30,000 check or not?
I mean, and that's it. Do you want the $30,000 check or not?
And also, what if they say to you, okay, we have the two hottest male and female actors in the business right now. They want to make Cat and Mouse, but they want to switch the sexes.
Switch the names, essentially. Yeah.
Otherwise, the deal is dead. It's like, well,
I mean, because you're probably getting some sort of back end money on it, apparently.
And you'll get some, some
residuals. Yeah.
You'll get residuals in perpetuity, and you'll also get a better audience for your comic book.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, and it probably would help if it worked. Now, if it didn't work, would it make your comic worse sales wise?
No,
maybe, probably not.
Yeah,
but I mean, if anything, it can make your comic sell more, right?
Yeah, well, if anything, you could spin it into look what they did to my property here.
Right, you can go online and just say, look what I really did, but here's what you can get where they did.
You can be that angry guy at conventions now.
Yeah, that angry guy talking about, it's like, well, look what they did to my property, but hey, there's no such thing as bad press.
Well, like Joe's the Men in Black thing. So when the movies came out, do you think that he was able to sell a crap load of his comics?
I would guess so. I mean, I don't recall, Tom. I mean,
he was the thing that's interesting. The thing that's cool is that there was a time, like between it was announced in the trade press, and it was announced that these were the producers, and this was Spielberg's company, and it was Will Smith doing this, and it was Ed Solomon doing the screenplay. Lowell had a lot of juice at that point.
Yeah,
and he had people who wanted to meet with him who would basically never give him the time of day.
Right.
Before, like the announcement's on a Wednesday, and on a Tuesday he couldn't get a meeting. On Thursday he could get every meeting that he wanted.
Right.
That's great.
So if he had like the second or third property lined up,
right,
then he could just go and say, well, here's the other thing from the creator of Men in Black. And so that's the thing too. When you sell out,
you got to be ready.
You got to have that second or third thing so you can sell out more.
Yeah.
That's a great point. That you have something else ready, just enough that you can, get moving on your hot streak.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the more show business sees you as, well, this is just one person who did one thing.
Right.
That's a category. Whereas this is the person who can come up with things all the time.
Multiple things.
That's a different category.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're Hollywood and you're looking to make bank, you want the person who comes up with multiple ideas.
Right.
That's what you want.
How can we change this to Woman in Black?
Right. That's right. Yeah.
Roland, do you remember that book that
Alien in Black?
You got to help me remember the name. The book that Kablam printed, and it went up on Indie Planet, and they sold
Raising
it.
Dion.
Raising Dion. Yeah,
Raising Dion.
He sold a boatload of the books before the announcement of the Netflix show, and the Netflix show was a series. I think it was Netflix, right?
Yeah.
And it didn't make it past like a few episodes because it was pretty.
I was gonna say I only recall one season. And
it was, and it was a short season or whatever.
Yeah.
But they are still selling a boatload of those books based off just as soon as it showed up on Netflix or whatever. We're printing like a couple of hundred a week of that thing, and it's still selling. It's even so even though the Netflix thing was nothing like the comic.
Well, it's people want what other people want.
Yeah, that's true.
And they don't really even know the quality of the Netflix thing. They just know,
it
hey,
was on Netflix,
people like it.
That has some juice.
Yes.
Yeah. I bet he sold a couple thousands of copies we've printed of that book for that guy.
From you guys.
That made it successful for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Matthew says, I would never have read Aragon without the movie being made.
There you go.
I like the book more. Yeah. Creative
I
Faye.
say that all the time.
What's that?
I say that all the time. I find something on Netflix and I find the source material and back end it that way.
Yeah.
Oh wow! I never would have found that. It's really great.
Yeah.
There's a trailer for a new Apple TV show called The Murderbot Diaries.
Sounds cool.
Which is about a household robot that is basically a serial killer, and the trailer's great. And so I went out and then I bought the book, and I'm gonna try to read it before the show airs.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Makes me think of Isaac Asimov's Robots of Dawn.
Yes, and I think those 3 rules of robotics don't count anymore. We're in a.
It sounds like
we're in a new era.
Creative Faye says, "Hey, Creative, thanks for hanging out with us. Good to see you here." Says, if it destroys the soul of the comic, then no, I wouldn't sign the contract.
I don't understand that attitude at all.
Hey, can you guys imagine what Washington Irving would have thought about Sleepy Hollow and Johnny Depp being Knickerbocker Crane?
Yeah, exactly. It would have killed him.
It would have killed him. It's
like, but you don't know. You don't know what it's going to turn out once you.
That's it.
You can't say, okay, this is fine. I'm going to take the buyout money or whatever, but you got to show it to me first when you're done. If I don't like it, it's killed. We're not.
No one will do that. Yeah.
But I can't imagine how Sir Arthur Conan Doyle might have felt when Sherlock Holmes fought Nazis in World War II. Because that wasn't the character from the short stories.
Well, think about Anne Rice. She was against Tom Cruise, and then she ate crow. She ate crow, and she was more than willing to admit to it.
And that was only so successful. It sold a ton of her books.
Right.
Oh, yeah. People who got that. Also, I think the controversy also helped it too, because that was an era where it was just simpler, where it's like the creator is sad about the movie, and then it's like, yeah, but it's Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt, and who cares,
right?
And then they all bought the book to see what it was really like. And so that's that controversy
that helps.
Even though her complaints were valid and it wasn't what she wanted, I think it sold more books, which is truer to what she wanted.
Right. Yeah.
And that's another conundrum of Hollywood, because years later, when they did Queen of the Damned, she offered to write the screenplay for free, and they still turned her down. Right. They had no intention of. They just wanted to make their movie just to make it.
Yes.
They weren't as interested in Interview the Vampire authenticity. They just wanted to make a movie and had nothing to do with the.
No, they really took too many liberties with that one. Yeah. They just.
And that's the thing too. If Hollywood is buying my comic, the last thing they want is to have me sticking around.
Yeah.
And I understand that. I'm not gonna argue that I need to be on the set eating bagels with the crew, but
that'd be fun.
They're not gonna let me participate.
No, because they're not going to let you participate because they saw something in your thing, but it wasn't what you saw. It probably wasn't what you saw. They saw it and envisioned something different.
Yes.
And when they
sometimes
start making,
that can be wonderful. Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But when it's the thing that you made, you're like, that's not really what I meant.
Right.
Underground tunnels in New Orleans.
I think there are a lot of us that look upon these things as, well, that's my baby. I wouldn't want you to hurt my baby. And then it's like, no, here's my price. You can hurt my baby.
Yeah.
Well, so you want to punch my baby in the face. Here's the money that I want.
Here's go away money. I'll take go away money all the time.
Yeah.
So let's go back to price just a little bit. Matthew says, hot take, the book I Am Number 4 is Sailor Moon for guys, or at least the movie. Same basic plot, different demographic. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about price, right? Because so there are different elements in a deal like that, right? There's the here's your upfront money. Here's the money we're going to give you just up front.
Yeah.
Right. And then here's what we get for the remainder of your life, or for the remainder of what we do. Let's assume that it's going to be made and it's not going to go and die, right? Because as Tom said earlier, you want to make sure that you've got something in those agreements that if they do nothing with it, there's an exit clause that you can say, all right, guys, it's been 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, I don't know, whatever it is that you want. I want it back because you're clearly not doing anything with it. So and I'm asking this because I remember Lowell Cunningham talking to me about this. Do you want bigger money up front, or do you want better numbers on the back end? Like, do you want them to pay you, okay, here's $10,000 for your option? Or do you say, no, I need $100,000 for my option, and then a smaller percentage when you sell all the other stuff?
Well, so the chances are that you're not going to see any back end money, no matter how the deal is structured, because of the way Hollywood accounts for expenses.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going to give you, they'll give you what Eddie Murphy used to call monkey points, which means they'll give you lots of those points because they don't matter. So what you really want is as much money up. So it's usually layered out into a step deal. Like, here's the option price, and the option is good for 6 months or a year. And then if we want to renew the option because we still like it and we were still moving forward with it, then the option price is renewed, but at a higher rate. So there's let's say, I'll make up these numbers. There's a $5,000 for 1 year option. If they renew it for a second year, now it's $7,500 or $10,000 additional money.
Right.
And then you want, if they find a screenwriter and greenlight a script, you want more. You want to get another payment for that. Then if they greenlight the movie, you want a payment for that. And then if they release the movie on any platform whatsoever, whether it's in theaters or on a streamer or overseas or on some replacement for DVD or whatever, you want a payment for that, because all those are guaranteed flat payments that come at specific times, and they're very specific triggers that are real, that they can't cloud those numbers, because those are real dates. And then what you want is a percentage. Again, this is assuming a perfect world, because not everybody gets it. You want what Lowell Cunningham got, which is a percentage of the licensing money, the merchandising money.
Right.
No one cares about the back end of a movie because there is no back end. You want a guaranteed percentage of the licensing and merchandise that goes with the movie or the TV show.
There's half of our viewers are doing this right now.
Yeah.
Because people look at it as like, well, this is a $500 million. If you can Google 1,000 stories about people who had, the back end of a $500 million movie, and they're still waiting.
Yeah.
Because
so what I remember Lowell telling me, and chime in, Tom, on this, is that I remember seeing him at the Comic-Con, at San Diego Comic-Con. I think that's the summer that the movie was coming out, and he was handing out little Men in Black pins. Right, I've still got mine on one of my hats over there somewhere. Of course I do. Yeah. He was handing out little Men in Black pins, and of course we were standing around talking to him, and I said, "So Lowell, do I need to go see the movie twice?" Lowell said to me, he goes, "I don't care if you go see the movie at all." And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "I don't care if you go see the movie, but go buy 2 DVDs." And I said, what? He goes, yeah. He goes, yeah. I don't really get anything from the theatrical release of the movie. If it does great, he goes, it doesn't really affect me at all. He goes, but I got a really good deal on everything else.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so yeah, Lowell was like, yeah, I don't care if you go see in the theater at all, but buy 2 DVDs.
Right. And he also, and his deal is also triggered where because of the sequel, he gets another flat payment. Because of the other sequel, he gets another flat payment. Because of the spinoff to the TV show, he gets a payment. And so I would rather have these flat payments that are triggered by specific times than have any sort of back end monkey points.
Yeah, monkey points.
And also, and the only thing that is cool is if you can have the power to guarantee yourself some kind of producer credit on the movie, because a producer credit is a credit that pays residuals by a specific formula that doesn't get tied to profit.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I didn't know that it wasn't tied to profit. I didn't know that.
That's why when they say,
I'm sure they hope you don't.
based on a Marvel comic by so and so, that doesn't mean anything. The producer credit is really what you want. Even if it's a producer credit where they've paid you to go away,
right?
You want that producer credit.
Tom, do you remember that Lowell was in he had an appearance in the first movie?
I did not.
Yeah.
But I do know when I talked to him, he was the one thing he was excited about after the movie is there's a scene in the movie that is lifted completely from his comic, including the dialogue. And he is like, that's like most of the movie doesn't resemble, it's thematically the same, but it's not the same. But there's one specific scene where it's like it's lifted word for word, almost the way Sandy drew it.
Yeah,
and he was super happy about that.
Yeah. I remember I had seen the movie already by the time I found out about this. By the way, anyone out there thinking, well, why don't you ask Lowell to come? I have asked Lowell to come on our show before, and he's just like, yeah, I don't really like to do stuff like that. But I ask him about once a year. Just drop him an email, say, hey, Lowell, just checking in with you, see how you're doing. And he goes, not really.
When I lived in LA and he would come out to visit and to pitch stuff and talk to producers, whatever, I'd have lunch with him, and he was the same way. Just like, that's not him.
Nope, it's not. So
and I think that's
okay.
It's the cool thing about Lowell is that all of that stuff with the billion Men in Black movies and the TV show and all the toys and the merchandise, whatever, Lowell is 100% still the same Lowell that he was before all that stuff. Like,
yes, he is.
He just doesn't have to go and get a terrible job.
No, right? Exactly.
I think one of the things that's difficult, I'm a complete introvert. I would hate to be that person that has to go out and be part of the media blitz that needs to happen to sell it.
Yeah,
I would hate it.
Roberta, you would absolutely hate listening to what I say in my class because a lot, as you know, most creative.
I'm not saying it's not important. I'm saying that it's hard. It's hard.
Tom, what are you doing tomorrow, Tom? I need you to do something for me.
I absolutely live for it. I will do it at a drop of a hat.
Well, see, that's the thing. There's people that love it.
Yeah.
But I also. The thing is, I also recognize the superficiality of it and the fact that I'm just pretending to be somebody I'm not really, which is, for the purpose of selling a property, I will become the funky flashman for a couple of days. And that'll be that. And then after I'm done, I'm going to be back in this little dark room that I have here.
That's right.
And I'm going to be writing some stupid comic book.
Making your stuff up again. Matthew says, I love being a vendor at conventions. And then he says, I run a convention too. Yeah, Matthew, cool. There are 5 people on this screen right here that would love an invitation to your convention. So just keep that in mind. So what I was going to say, though, is that, so many creative types are introverts. And what I tell them in my class is like, I get it. I understand. I hear you. I feel you. But you do have to get over that because
you just have to hire somebody else.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about it is if you create something right? If you write something, you write a novel that, people want to hear from that person, right? They want to hear, they're going to scour the internet looking for interviews and quips and sayings and stuff like that. They want to hear from that person. And if they don't ever, Agent Cub says, once I sell out, I will retire.
He's got a number.
All right. Matthew says, here you go, guys. Make a note of this. Matthew says, drop an email to matthew@effingcon.com.
There you go.
Effing. Yeah. Is that in Effing, Massachusetts?
But I think the thing is that I understand that most creative people are introverts. And I know that when we're creating, especially, we're inside our own heads. And, we've set a mood for ourselves so that we can be creative. But I always view it as it's two different sides. It's a coin. There's two different sides. There's one side is where I'm by myself, making my own thing and, doing my creative stuff. But the second thing is, if nobody buys it and nobody reads it and nobody pays any attention to it, then what am I really doing?
Right.
You're just writing a journal. Putting it out in the world anymore, right?
I'm journaling is what
You're journaling.
I'm journaling. And so I don't want to journal because I can't feed myself off journaling. So I gotta go out and become, the House Roy and Funky Flashman. And I've got to go out and hustle. And for that I'm especially like when I go to pitch meetings for movies and TV shows, you've got to put on a show. You've got to dazzle somebody with, hey, I'm fun to work with. Look at me. And
that's the other thing. So, so I used to do interviews in my class. Tom, I think you did one. I used to do interviews in my class with the class asking questions, right? And 95% of them, at the end of the interview, I would ask the writer, they were all writers because I teach writing. They were all writers. And I would say, what piece of advice, we've asked you a lot of questions. What piece of advice would you offer that maybe we haven't asked? Without fail, and not always in the same language, but it was always, don't be a jerk. Nobody wants to work with a jerk.
That's right.
And like Tom said, is that, people want to work with the fun people. People want to work with the people they like. I mean, guys, I'm going to be blatantly honest with you right here. When Silverline started, I reached out to people that I know and I like, right? I'm like, hey, I like Tommy. Tommy's talented. He's been my buddy for a long time. I like Tommy. I like hanging out with Tommy, right? He makes me laugh a lot of times at shows. I want to work with Tommy, right?
Yeah.
You want to work with people that you like.
Well, also,
let's just get rid of Tommy right now.
As an extension of that, if you're making a comic book, you're going to be stuck. It is a creative endeavor with like 2 or 3 or maybe 4 or 5 other people involved. If you don't like each other, you're going to be stuck together.
Yep.
In a virtual room for like the next 4, 5, 6 months making a comic.
And then it takes off and you're stuck together again.
You really ought to.
Yep.
You really ought to like these people.
And then you got to meet that person at some point.
Yeah, don't go working with Robert Kirkman anytime soon.
Wait, is he the one that he's the one that bought the rights, isn't he?
No, Kirkman did Walking Dead with Tony Moore, and then Tony Moore ended up having to sue him.
Yeah.
Well, so all right. So here's the story I remember, and let's all see what we remember of this story. So he told Tony Moore got into I don't know if he had financial straits or if Robert Kirkman just said, hey, I'd like to buy out your part of the rights on this. Here's $10,000 or whatever. Yeah. And yeah, okay, cool. All right. Well, then almost immediately after that happened, he sold the rights to Walking Dead. And Tony was like, yeah, you knew that was coming. You bought me out just so you could screw me.
Yeah. I think that was the argument. I only know the surface of it, but I think that's generally what's said.
So did he take? So am I hearing?
They settled.
They settled, and he also got a credit on the show.
Yeah, there was a big settlement.
Well, good for him. Yeah, when I heard that, I thought what a crap move that is. One of the other things I tell and talk about in my class And you know, I don't know that Tom and I have ever talked about this. Is that when you get an artist who is willing to create something with you, don't be stingy. Share, because in my opinion, as a comic book maker, my comic's not getting made without the artist. And if we have come up with something together, and we're creating this brand new thing, and it doesn't exist without the artist, you share, right? And that way, if you go make a movie, a movie's made, you both get a piece of it.
That's why you got to get a contract. Then you don't have to pay $1 million lawyer to get the contract done. You can download one off the internet. It's just a partnership agreement that just says this is what happens. Sure, 95% of the time, nothing is going to happen with it.
Right.
And they're not going to go. But for that 5% chance, you want a clear definition of, it's easier to argue when there's no money than when there's real money on the table. So you don't want to do it retroactively. You want to get it all up front and get it all signed away.
100%. Any other thoughts about selling out? I pretty much asked all the questions I had about selling out.
I think as my final word, I looked at what Mike said earlier in the show, which is selling out, whatever that means, is different at different stages in your life. Whereas when I'm in my 20s, I'm like a firebrand thinking, oh, I can do more. I can make many, many properties. But then as I get older and I start to worry about retirement and healthcare and taking care of my family and making sure my kids are well off after I'm dead, it's like, then I have a different set of beliefs.
Yeah. And so you have responsibilities at some point? Is that
and also maybe I don't want to live in a studio apartment in the worst part of town.
Right.
And so maybe that's not how I want to define myself as my artist. He was true to himself. He lived in the same crappy apartment in a poor part of town for his entire life.
Maybe you shouldn't be borrowing your neighbor's internet connection. Maybe.
Oh no, you should do that.
Okay.
I encourage that.
Cabin in Colorado and get away from everybody.
Then you're working on your manifesto though.
Right. Yeah.
So you can either journal, you can work on your manifesto, or you can make some comics.
You gotta get the minutes go by.
So all right, chat. Anybody else have any other questions about the selling out? Any other thoughts? Creative Face says also for my own comic, I'd rather see an animated feature created of it than a live action, but I do still want it to be true to the vision.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather see live action because there's a lot more money in live action, and there's a lot.
I'm the same way. I would love to see an animated Man in the Mask, but if the other one paid better, I'll take that more.
Yeah.
I think for me, I'd rather see.
Hello.
Hi, Roland.
Did he freeze just him?
Sounds like Roland was going to say something very, very important.
Very now. Okay. For me, I would rather see a series because I tend to think in episodic form.
Oh, yeah.
You guys know me well enough to know that.
Yes.
I tend to think episodically, so I think I would rather see a series than a movie.
Oh, yeah,
also, you have a number of characters in your world that would be hard to bring into in a movie without feeling super crowded. Whereas you could dribble them into a series over a season, and you would have a lot of storyline to work with and to weave around.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree with you, Roland. You're a series
guy. Creative Agent Cup says, if I can't be a jerk, can I at least be a lovable asshole?
Define lovable, really.
Right, exactly. Creative Face says, for some things, animation works better. I agree with that.
Like for Zomboy, I think Zomboy has to be animated.
Oh, I think Zomboy was great. Yeah, great animated.
Except for that one episode where all of a sudden it flips again because of the way that it works, and then
good pitch.
Yeah.
As long as we don't turn it into a bloodbath like Invincible. So.
Oh my gosh.
I couldn't make it through the first episode.
Really?
I really didn't. It lost me on that.
Yeah, Renee, my wife couldn't make it when the speed guy ran through the lady or whatever. And Sister Renee's like, I'm not watching this show.
Yeah.
So,
Can y'all hear me
I
now?
remember that part, part of her. Yeah, she was like, nope. And I'm like, that's just like the comic. She goes, you read that? And I'm like, yeah.
I must be having internet issues.
No, we got you. We got you.
Okay.
That's all right.
I started watching that show with my wife, and when all that stuff started happening, she goes, "Yeah, I don't want to watch this. I'm out."
You're not watching The Boys either, then.
No, we don't watch The Boys. No, not because that first episode started, and dude's left standing there holding the hands. And she's like, no, I don't want to watch this. I forget his name. A-Train, I think what it was.
Yeah.
Runs. Yeah.
I got to take off early, guys.
Okay, Roberta.
Yeah. Good to
Thank
see
you,
you.
Roberta. We appreciate you.
As always, very good. Make mine Silverline.
Make my Silverline. That's right. Bye, Roberta.
Bye.
Agent Cub says, Roland, and the secret to a guaranteed $1 million for your IP is, and that's all you need to do. There you go.
Although $1 million doesn't go as far as it used to, so the price is,
right.
the price is much higher now.
But that's a great place to start, right?
Yes. If you're giving me licensing and merchandising money, then $1 million is fine.
Yeah. All right. Well, I didn't see. She sent us a message and I didn't see it.
Oh, she did it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I see it now. All right. What else, guys? Any other thoughts? We've been at this little.
I was going to ask you, do you feel like in any point of your career that any of you guys, because I know all y'all, so except for Tom probably as much, because Tom's had a lot more of the bigger deals going on. Anybody have a sellout moment? Not if we're considering the sellout as not a bad term, but any kind of a sellout kind of a thing.
So I had the similar kind of story that Roland has, which is where they want to flip his sexes. So when Dinosaurs for Hire got optioned by Fox, they wanted to dumb it down and turn it into a Mutant Ninja Turtles looking show, and they had a bunch of character designs done where they all look like Hanna-Barbera characters, and I didn't. And they kept bringing me into the Fox lot for meetings, telling me that it wasn't working, and I kept trying to tell them because it's not a Turtles show, right? Yeah, it's not for kids to watch after school. It's very much a show for an adult market that didn't exist at the time, and I was sort of dumbfounded why they even took it in the first place. But had it gone forward, I think it would have failed miserably. And
the round hole square peg thing,
right? So I'm sort of grateful that the option ran out and they lost interest in it, and I got the rights back. And so I think, lesson learned.
Yeah.
Now I mean, offers don't come anymore, but I'm not pursuing them. But I have my eye on that every time I go into a meeting.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing, because they'll do the worst. Some of them, if you make the wrong deal, will do the absolute worst thing that you don't think they'll do.
Yeah. Well, and of course, Tommy, you know the cat and mouse story being optioned in the 80s, and I still hang on to that all that paperwork here in one of my drawers. So when someone says, Roland, we don't believe you that they changed the sexes of cat and mouse because that doesn't make any sense, I pull out the treatment and say, oh yeah, well, right here it is. I can prove it to you.
That's why I've still got prints of the cartoony artwork for Dinosaurs for Hire, the animated show, because it cracks me up because I look at it all the time and go, oh my God, this is a thing I could have had my name on.
There were so many from my perspective, of course, there were so many poor decisions made in the adaptation of Cat and Mouse to what they wanted to do. That is one of those things. Again, that is one of my eternal questions. Would I have been better off? And I don't mean better off. Would it have been better off, the whole situation, had they made it and done a bad job? Or because, someone said earlier, I don't remember who, any publicity, bad publicity is good publicity. And would that have been the case? Because again, they reversed the sexes. They basically turned Cat, who was now Mouse, And I told him, I said, look, this is no Southern man is going to call himself a mouse. It's just not going to happen. And they made him into Batman. They made him a rich philanthropist, which is, anyone who's read this series knows that's not what what he is.
So they like the name, they like the location, and they just made a different show.
They like the concept, but they they like the concept, but they're like, we're going to change everything else about it.
Because
give me my money, do whatever you want.
In some ways, I'm not saying this to say it's a great plan or that I agree with it or whatever. Yeah. But in some instances, the thinking is generally that, well, we buy it as a previous property. It's easier to get money from investors if it exists
something
in a form, regardless of whether that form is super successful or not. We can say, look, this is based on a comic book that's out there,
an existing thing,
money, right? And then the only way that they think they can make it work is and put it's like those home improvement shows where everybody says, I want to put my own stamp on it. It's like, well, so they treat Roland's property like a home improvement show where it's like, we're going to put our own stamp on it, but it's not going to be New Orleans anymore. It's going to be New York City, and Cat's going to be Mouse, and Mouse is going to be Cat, and whatever. And they're going to drive around in a Catmobile. And so, and they're going to play the saxophone in a jazz club at night. And so I think that's,
Nightman.
That's how they get money.
The cat will be a person, but the mouse will actually be a mouse that sits on the shoulder the whole time.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it'll be a puppet.
But this isn't the same show.
Right, and then it's like, Roland, shut up and take your $5,000.
That's exactly it. Yeah, shut up and take your money.
Because Roland is like, this. I don't know what show that was. I don't know. Didn't have nothing to do with me. Take my name off it.
Let's see. JC asked, what are those characters from that banner behind Mr. Flormonte? And I'm trying to pull this up here. I am going to show you. This is from the Silverline poster that we have.
That's Keith.
Right there.
We still have some available, right?
Absolutely. Yep, we still have some available. So they are always available. I shouldn't say that. I think they should always be available for any of our campaigns as an add-on. I'll fold them up. If you want them unfolded, you got to let me know because I have to ship them in a tube, and that just the postage costs a little bit more. But yeah, that's what you're looking at, and all of these characters are characters that exist in the Silverline world, as it were.
Trying to move so you can see some.
Agent Cub asked, why does Hollywood take proven IPs and decide they need to change it because they think it will make it better, only for the IP to fail because they change it?
Because they think they're smarter than us.
Yeah.
And also that's true, but also you can't say that because they made the changes it fails, because 95% of everything fails.
Right.
Movies fail all the time. TV shows get canceled all the time. So that's not why it necessarily fails, but they do change it because they think they know how it's going to make better TV.
Yeah.
Well, you think of John Peters and having the rights of Superman, and his dictation was, "I don't want to see that S." It's like, why?
Right.
Who thinks that way?
Or the Salkin family, when they had the rights to Superman, their first casting choice was Muhammad Ali because he was the most famous person in the world at the time. It's like, okay, kind of the wrong choice, kind of the wrong way to go.
I pity the fool.
But you can see that's Mr. T.
No, that's Mr. T. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
You can see how rich, stupid people think that way. And I think.
Well, they have no connection to it.
Right.
It's from a business point of view, and it's from what's the guy on the street going to understand? It's like, well, but the thing about it is, my argument's always been, well, there was interest to begin with. Just think of all the Marvel movies that were based off of Marvel stories. And it's like the mass public enjoyed those. It's like, well, guess what? We've been ahead of the curve for quite a number of years.
Yeah.
And also those early Marvel movies had a champion who understood the importance of those early stories. And so I think that's another key. Sometimes there's a champion at the studio who believes in the stuff, and other times it's just business guys who want to make stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and I've heard you say more than once, Tom, when folks talk about Ultraverse stuff, is that the problem with Ultraverse is there's no champion.
That's it.
There's no one that says, "Hey, I believe in this stuff and it should happen." And until the Ultraverse gets a champion, that's
Right.
not going to happen.
And that's a lot of the stuff. And you can read this in the creation of almost anything. Is that stuff had a champion? Why did Star Wars get made?
Yeah,
because George Lucas had a champion at the studio.
Yeah.
Clint Eastwood used to have a relationship with a producer at Warner Brothers named Bob Daly, who was a producer in all his Clint Eastwood's Warner Brothers movies. He had a champion within Warner Brothers who protected him and looked after him. And so Clint Eastwood got to make pretty much any movie that he wanted to because he had a protector. And I think that's James Gunn is the protector at Marvel. Now James Gunn is the protector at DC.
Yeah.
And Kevin Feige was the protector at Marvel, and he still is. And James Gunn is now the protector at DC. And I think that's, you have to, and James Gunn is still making changes from, the comics as they present on screen, but he's doing it from a place of like, he knows things.
Yeah. Yeah.
He does care.
Yeah. Yeah. Barry, Tommy's partner at Kablam there. One of the things that we talked about Superman movies before, and I'm not really sure if Barry likes, he's a Superman fan or not. I don't know, but I've heard him say on multiple occasions, he would like to see a Superman movie made by someone who actually likes Superman.
Yeah.
Well, I've said before, I think I've said on the show before, is that like, I love Mark Waid, and there's nobody currently who gets Superman better than Mark Waid. And I know that for whatever reason, they're not going to hire him to write a Superman movie, but he could lay it out for you.
Yeah.
And he would, because he gets Superman, and he also understands how the movie business works, and he also understands what the audience wants, and he also understands he's got all the pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah.
He would be the guy. And then I would be excited about Superman.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's part of the thing. Creative Face says, I interviewed Aaron Lopresti, artist of Sludge. We know Aaron.
Cool.
He's a good guy.
Aaron's a good guy.
He became a writer because of Sludge.
That's right, yeah. All right, so unless you guys have any news, time to wrap it up.
Yep. Wrap it up.
All right, on Tuesday, that Silverline show on Tuesday, they're going to be talking about the perfect sword fight. The gang talks about how you can write and draw the perfect sword fight in a comic book.
A lot of references.
Yeah. Have any of you seen the
a lot of speed lines?
Have any of you seen the video going around from The Princess Bride, where it's the sword fight, but they've taken the swords and replaced them with lightsabers?
Nice.
Yeah, it's actually really pretty good. On Wednesday, the Wednesday Whammers are going to be playing Guess the Hero Villain based on the description from the host. Can you guess the character that they're talking about? So that'll be Wednesday Wham. Next week, Mike sharpening his blades. What grinds Mike's gears? Mike's got things that grind his gears, gets him worked up. We're going to find out what those are. You bring your questions as well. Join us, and that is next week. Agent Cub says, okay, wrap it up, guys.
He's ready to go.
It's time for dinner.
Yeah.
He's ready to get something to eat too, I think.
Faye says, thanks. See you next week. So yeah, thank you all for hanging out. We will be back here next week, and we'll talk to Mike, see what gets him going. And until next time, remember to wait a minute, I gotta find it here.
Oh wait,
remember to make mine Silverline. Good night, everyone.
Rehearsal.
Tube and feel the vibe. Every show you crave right here live. Heroes and villains clash in the night. Madness Comic Network sets it right. Scroll through the list, find what you need. Epic battles and fast-paced speed. From capes to cosmic space delight. Tune in and watch your favorites ignite. On Facebook, share the thrill so grand. On X, the buzz across the land. Madness Comic Network all around. In episode, joy is found. Uploads, they never end. Superheroes and their friends catch every twist and every turn. Madness comic, you will yearn. Stay up to date with every twist. Madness comic, don't miss a gist. From laughter to tears, every mood. Madness comic sets the groove. Click that button and subscribe. Catch the wave and ride the tide. Join the fun, join the craze. Madness comic brightens days. Hey! New uploads, they never end. Superheroes and their friends catch every twist and every turn. Madness comic, you will yearn. Stay up to date with every twist. Madness comic, don't miss a gist. From laughter to tears, every mood. Madness comic sets the groove. Click that button and subscribe. Catch the wave and ride the tide. Join the fun, join the craze. Madness comic brightens days.
Hi, I'm Greg Horn. Make mine Silverline.